how very embarrassing it was to make all of you wait. This has not happened in the past, but we are in a state of flux at the moment, as you know. The club is in a state of flux at the moment, and once again, on behalf of Cricket Club of India, we are extremely sorry that all of you had to wait for reasons beyond our control. Today is the great Vijay Bhai's birth anniversary, for which we are once again meeting today. We have with us his son Amogh. If you read the papers today, the midday said that Vijay Bhai's averages are quickly noted it down. He played 10 test matches for an average of 47.72. His first class average was 71.64 and his Ranji Trophy average was 98.75. Today's cricketers, today's media, today's channels, both the press and the electronic, never talk of great cricketers of the past and their contributions. All that they seem to be worried about is the quote for their paper. All that they are worried about is something to talk on the channels. I must tell you a story. I was last night given a call by one of the channels to talk about whether the big three should go away and retire. Do they have any place in Indian cricket anymore? And I was asked, what is your view going to be? And I said, no, they should carry on as long as they want to. It's my personal view, because we've got Australia, we've got Pakistan, we've got to go to Australia. And the person across the line said, okay, we'll let you know whether you need to be here. All that they wanted from me is a controversy to talk about Indian cricket, which is going through good times at the moment. But to dwell on what I said earlier, that past cricketers who have been great players of the past, and many of them have not been seen by modern day cricketers or even heard of by modern day cricketers, need to know that somebody of the greatness of the late Vijay Bhai was probably one of the greatest opening batsmen the world had ever seen. I believe C.B. Fry had said that let's paint the gentleman white and take him to Australia. Such was his prowess on English wickets, a true technician. When we talk about Vijay Merchant, when we talk at Madhav Apte's house, we've had these many intriguing evenings as to what is the best all-time Indian 11. And two names that come unchallenged really are Merchant and Gavaskar. Every other name is discussed for whatever reasons, but these two names have never been discussed, and Merchant and Gavaskar are the only two names who are in each and everybody's team of all those former cricketers who are discussing cricket. I take this opportunity to welcome Amogh Mathure today, who would like his father be the best for first speaker. Amogh, if you would like to come here or talk from there.
Shri Raj Singh Bhai Dungarpur, Mr. Amogh Mathure, Mr. Madhav Apte, and my very good friends. Today I am going to tell you three incidences in the life of my father. The first incident took place in the Hindustan Mills Health Center, where he was doing so much of a social work. This meeting was attended by none other than Sir Chintaman Rao Dwarkanath Deshmukh, a very great economist. And my father had a scheme called Zero Defect. In this scheme, the workers were not only given their salaries, but they were even given an incentive to do better by giving them prizes. And at that time, Sir Chintaman Rao Dwarkanath Deshmukh said, Vijay, can this be calculated? So he said, no, sir, the day when all this is calculated, the charm of what we are doing for the handicapped will no longer be there. I was so touched by these words, and then he said but I am quite sure that these returns come back to us in some form or the other. They may not come back in our account books. They may not come back in the form of rupees, annas and paisa, but they will be credited to the greatest bank of all, the bank of humanity, which no government can ever nationalize. This is one thing I was so happy on hearing. The second incident took place when Pakistan were playing England in 1974. I think it was at Edgbaston, I don't know. And the great John Arlott had said in one of his, while he was commentating, that if anyone asks me a question, I will be most happy to answer that question. At that time, I wrote to him about the new LBW rule. He not only answered this question, but he wrote a long letter to me. And what was there? Dear Amar, how nice to receive a letter from you, and please give my regard to your father to whom I owe so much. This was 28 years after Vijay had played in 1946, in 1974. That just goes to show how much respect a man like John Arlott had for my father. I was very touched by this incident and I told my father. And my father said, yes, he knows me, but I don't know why he should have said these words. And the third and the last incident took place once when I was playing cricket with him. I was just seeing that every stroke was there. It's not only Vijay Merchant is known for the late cut, but every stroke that he made was so good. I was wondering, I just couldn't get him out. I was bowling and every ball he was either hitting for a 4 or he was hitting for 2 runs or 3 runs. Finally, the score was 167 for 7 wickets and his score was 164 not out and the rest of the 3 runs were leg byes. So you can well imagine how the rest of the 7 people had not done anything. And I had taken 2 wickets, but I just couldn't get his wicket. And afterwards I told him, I said, I wish I had learnt a great deal and I had played cricket, but that was not to be. These were the 3 incidences which made such an impression on me. I was very happy. And today I am very happy that 20 years after his death, it will be 20 years after his death on October 27th. In the same year as the 2020 tournament, he is as popular as ever. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amar. That was truly from the heart. My association was Gatani was bowling. You must have heard this story, but I was very much there. And Kailash came and just lobbed an in-swinger. I said, Kailash, don't worry, I'm not all that old. This you must have heard several times, but I speak it from the heart because I was there that time, fielding in the slips. And Kailash bowled him a searing outswinger at full pace. Vijay must have been well past his 50s or even 60s, I can't remember. But he had that impeccable pads of his, the John Hobbs pads, the gloves with katas, spikes. Then he had his India cap, he had his flannel shoes, flannel shirt and a flannel trouser, and impeccable white shoes. And a gun and more, which could have been probably 2.1 or even 2. And that ball that Kailash bowled, his famous late cut, went into that shot and searing for a boundary. And then he said, Kailash, did you like that? Don't ever try to bowl slow to me. And his great nephew, Sunil Gavaskar. I'm not trying to ask you, Madhura, to compare anybody, but the 2 technicians whom Madhura Mantri knew very, very closely. I would like to give you Madhura Mantri.
Thank you, Milind. I didn't want to speak anything about Vijay Merchant's cricket because all of you know about it. I only wanted to tell you the stories just now, all these pressmen are talking about whether senior cricketers should retire. And he told us, Vijay Merchant in good old days, told us the story of two great cricketers, Jack Hobbs, the master. Now all others are little masters and all. He is the master, Jack Hobbs. Now he announced his retirement in the April, beginning of the county season, that at the end of the season he will retire. And in that season he scored 11 centuries. He scored 197 in all, 11 centuries. And actually the pressman asked, why are you retiring? You are still in form. And then he said, yes, but I used to get my centuries in 3 hours. Now I take 4 hours, which is not in the interest of the team. That means I am getting older and it is time for me to retire. So that sort of a thing is there. The second thing is the Patsy Hendren, another great cricketer. He also announced his retirement early beginning of the season, and then at the end of the season he was in very good form. He scored few centuries and all that. And he was also asked, why are you retiring? He said, exactly. It is always better to retire when people ask why than why not. This is what Vijay Merchant told us in 40s. I still remember, and I don't want to say because this is what the senior cricketers should do. They have their own record, but this is what. And then he told me, I put on goggles for just for a few minutes, and he came and told me, Madhav, remove those goggles. We are playing cricket in the sun, therefore goggles we should not use. And you will be surprised, it is in 1943, till this date I have not used the goggles at all. This is what Vijay Merchant said. And then another thing he told me, that people will invite you for functions. Don't ever prepare your speech and written speech and read it. You must go and speak according to the audience. And I have also followed that, and I have been doing that. And then he said about Vijay Merchant and Sunil Gavaskar, both were great cricketers, no doubt about it. And at one function meeting like this, somebody got up and said, Vijay Merchant was a great opening batsman. Sunil Gavaskar also was present. And Sunil Gavaskar was opening. So you have seen both, what do you think? So I said there should not be comparison between two great cricketers of any age, because they would have been great in any age. There is no question about it. So no cricketers. But I said, I judged an opening batsman by how he judges the swing. Bowling, bowler, bowling, out swinger, in swinger, and at the last minute he watches and leaves them. That is what he should do. And I think Vijay Merchant was past master. And I sat down. Then Vijay Merchant wrote an article in Sport and Pastime about Sunil Gavaskar, praising him, and then Sunil Gavaskar in the next issue wrote about Vijay Merchant. And at the end of his article, he narrated this story, this incident which I just narrated to you, told you. He mentioned that, and he only added one thing, and they say blood is thicker than water. That's what he said. So these are, but both were great cricketers, there's no doubt about it. But what Bradman said about Sunil Gavaskar is absolutely true, because Vijay Merchant also was a great stroke player, and his leg cut, I don't think anybody, it was a stroke, it was not a delicate cut, but it was absolutely a full-blooded stroke. And I've seen many wicket keepers getting hurt, because so late he used to hit, they were getting hurt. So Vijay Merchant also was a great, but Don Bradman said, when he was compared with, Sunil was compared with Jeff Bycott, Ian Chappell thought Jeff Bycott was better. And Don Bradman wrote, he said, no, Sunil Gavaskar is better, because Bycott is a great cricketer, but great defensive batsman. Sunil Gavaskar also is technically perfect, but he uses his strokes. Once he's set, he makes his strokes. And that is the difference between the two. One is a great defensive player, but one is a great stroke player. So this is what this is Sunil Gavaskar was, and this is what Vijay Merchant, of course, I played a lot. He never lifted a ball. Vijay Hazare never lifted a ball. Once in his life, he lifted. He was in 294 against Hindus in the Pentagon. We wanted to stop it. Last ball, he didn't want to give him a single. So we all close fielders, so open. So he just lifted the ball to get a single, Chandu Sarvate's ball, and he just went out and hit and went straight. It went for a sixer. Perhaps his only sixer in his life. He never lifted the ball. Both of them, Vijay Merchant, Vijay Hazare, never lifted the ball. They were all ground stroke. Well, Sunil Gavaskar did that. Sunil Gavaskar used to hit. There's no question to that. But great cricketers should not be compared, Milind. They are great. They would have been great in any age. That's what I personally think. And thank you very much for bringing. And I have been a president for the 2 years, last year, and it is our understanding that when the club was formed 4 years ago, that first year Vasant Raiji will be the president, next 2 years I will be the president, and followed by Madhav Apte. So my term has been over, and hand over charge to Madhav Apte as the president of this club.
Thank you, Madhav, for your continued association with the Legends Club as its president. You have been someone who has taught us how to play cricket. You are someone who's taught all of us what discipline needs to be. You are someone who's taken all youngsters forward. In my playing days, I had Vijay Merchant as the chairman, Madhav Mathure as the second selector, Khandu Rangnekar as the third one, and there used to be Jimmy Diwadkar, the youngster in the whole lot. And our skipper Ajit Wadekar was the captain, was there to discuss the team. I'm going to make you wait for a little while because I'm going to make Ajit get ready with the processes of a selection meeting. And in the meanwhile, I'd like to call Raj Singh Dungapur, who's known, Rajbhai, a few words from you, who's known Vijayabhai very closely at the CCI and who's seen enough of him. Rajbhai.
Namaskar, good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is yet another evening of salutation. I am an inquisitive man who is very keen to know who were the great players of the time, and I kept on asking Betser for 3 years how good a batsman was Vijay Merchant, and he turned around and said he was a good player. One day in the committee room of Lords, Mr. Betser was there, understandably, and for no reason, perhaps I was there too, and he called me, and his finger was quite awesome. He said, "You come here." So I went into him, and he said, "You wanted to know how good a player was Vijay Merchant?" I said, "Sir, I've been asking you for the last 3 or 4 years, but you have not answered my question." He says, "I'd like to tell you how good a player was Vijay Merchant." He said, "Vijay Merchant was the best overseas batsman I bowled to, barring Don Bradman." And if Philip Vector Betzers thought that Vijay Merchant was the next best batsman to Don Bradman, I think you must understand the technical excellence of Vijay Merchant. I think if what Milind Rege told us in that nets that day, Vijay Merchant came, we were making a film. I think, I forget the name of the gentleman. Most of us were on the ground. And it came, Zulvillani, that's right. It came to a point, Khalid, where we wanted somebody to execute a late cut. And we knew there was only one man. Virumankad was on the ground. He had his own way of speaking. So he said, "Don't waste time. Nobody can play a late cut. Ring up your wife, get your kid back, and wear your pads, and we will be able to see a late cut." And believe me, my hair stand I told him, Vijay bhai, I will chuck the ball from middle of the pitch. The camera will be on you, not me. He said, I'll never be able to play that way. So he said, get somebody with a new ball. I was a bit frightened. I told young Kailash Gatani that you take care and don't hurt him. He has not played cricket at all. When he bowled the first 2 balls, he turned around and said, Kailash, bowl your speed, I won't be able to play. The first ball outside the off stump, he cut it. It jumped over the slips and went for 4 runs. Electrifying moment. Kailash Gatani bowled an in-swinger. He went right back and middled it and said, Kailash, you can never cut an incoming ball. That's Vijay Merchant. I'm into bedset to say that he was one of the great players that he bowled to, and those were uncovered wickets. 1936, century. 10 years of war, no cricket. 1946, 100. You gentlemen expect some more qualification to be truly a great batsman. I think we salute him. And Aman, I want to tell you, you spoke so well. Your father would have been proud of you. I want to congratulate Mr. Madhav Apte on taking over from yet another Madhav. So, Mr. Amogh Mathure is handed over to Madhav Apte. And I suppose, since I don't think we have got such gay abundance of Madhavs, but we will make sure that the next president is not yet another Madhav, because they are such wonderful people. I think there are many familiar faces. Khalid has come and settled down there. There is Mr. Vasant Raiji, Mr. Arvind Apte, Mr. Bapu Natkarni, so many, and of course Ajit Warekar, who won us more matches than anybody else. I think while we salute Vijay Merchant, I would certainly say that some people wrote that Sachin Tendulkar, Rahul Dravid, who's the other man? They said they must retire. And Ganguly must retire. I think they are at their prime. And let me tell you without hesitation that Sachin Tendulkar, I think, is the greatest batsman India has ever produced. And I think another 3 or 4 years, he will enlighten us how the game of cricket should be played. The next speaker is going to be who? I think it's monopolized by Madhav, so I'll ask Madhav Apte to take over from me. Thank you. And we congratulate him and wish him all the very best for taking up the presidency.
Raj, my friend, who is the founder of the concept of Legends Club in India, Amogh Mathure, my cricketing guru, and many other dear friends. At the outset, I would like to thank my Guru Madhav Rao for handing over the charge of presidentship of the Legends Club to me. I know that I'm entering into much larger shoes, the size, but I will try and do the best that I can to fit into the shoes that you will have left for me. Friends, we meet every year for 3 V's, as we call them: Vijay Merchant, Vijay Hazare, and Vinu Mankad. And now Polly, that would be 4th. Well, somewhere I would have come, it would be VVIP then. And I think we discuss cricket. It's always great to be amongst cricketers, cricketing friends, admirers, players, and so on. As far as I am concerned, talking about Vijay Bhai, as I knew him, my memory goes back to 1940 or thereabouts. I was probably 8 years old, Arvind was 6 years old, We had moved to Pedder Road, Woodlands. Our tenants were cousins of Mr. Vijay Merchant and the entire Thakurji family. We had a little patch of ground where we played cricket. Occasionally, Vijay Bhai would come and join us. It was tennis ball cricket, but he would join play with us. Then I think it was 1943 or thereabout when both of us were doing a thread ceremony, Munja as it's called. And my recollection is, Arvind will also remember, that the present which Vijay Bhai and Uday Bhai gave us was a kit bag, a green cotton kit bag to two youngsters who were playing cricket, keen on cricket. And again, the gentleman was a perfectionist. Everything was absolutely immaculate. The bat was number 6, Morris Leyland bat. The pads were Jack Hobbs junior size pads, the gloves, everything was as it should be for two small boys. In fact, I may relate that in 1944 when I played cricket for the school as a leg spin bowler and got those 10 wickets, Bobby Talyar Khan wrote in Bombay Sentinel an evening piece. In that, curiously enough, he referred to my batting, which was at number 10 or 11, but it was not the quality of batting so much as the attire, that how immaculate the pads were, the bat was, right size, etc. Otherwise, typically in most schools, you would find pads and bats which were outsized, etc. But this was, he referred to that and says how immaculately attired I was. That was thanks to Mr. Vijay Merchant and Uday Bhai, who had gifted us this kit. After that, of course, the friendship or the closeness grew, and one of the things for which I will ever remain indebted to him. Mr. Amogh Mathure is here. He was the captain of Bombay in 51-52, and I was not even in the 14. I had a good season. The Bombay team was so strong. Mr. Mathure was the captain, Vijay Merchant, Vinu Mankar, Dattu Fatkar, Ranga Soni, Rusi Modi, you name them, they were all there. In spite of a very successful season, there was no hope that I could get in. By sheer luck, Vijay Bhai got injured while practicing the nets and dropped out of that game, which was against Saurashtra. And I did not know then, but I was the standby opening batsman. I got a chance to play. I was lucky enough to score 100 on debut. And after that, Vijay Bhai told the selection committee, now that you have a youngster, why do I need to play? So I got a full season to play and had a successful season. But the break, as they say in marketing terms, unless the product is on the shelf, it can't be sold. So if I had not got that opportunity, which I got because of Vijay Bhai standing down, perhaps I would never have made the grade that I did. But he was always considerate, even during this English tour or even after that when I was dropped. He would always be a great supporter of mine. Even before that, not many people will know this, but he was an extremely fine tennis player. In our Woodlands property, we also had a tennis court. Not many may remember, but Vijay Bhai was, I think, Bombay University tennis champion, singles. And in 48, I won a juniors doubles title at Hindu Khana Hard Court. He was presiding over the function. So when I went to receive my prize, he turned to me and says, Madhav, which game are you going to pursue? Before I could even answer, he said, I hope that you will be as lucky with your choice as I was, that he was. Because he had a choice between pursuing tennis and or cricket. He chose cricket and he was fortunate. He says, I hope you will be lucky as well. I was, as it happened. I pursued cricket more than other games that I played. But that was again Vijay Merchant, the man who was always considerate. A lot of people will have said so many things about his game which is beyond words, and comparisons should not be made. His perfectionist, in fact, talking about Jack Hobbs, somebody referred to him. Neville Cardus in one of his essays, I think on Jack Hobbs, has said that with Hobbs, there could be an error of judgment, but never error of grammar of batting. I think same could be said about Vijay Merchant. There was never an error of grammar. He may have missed just the length of the ball sometimes, but otherwise his technique was as perfect as it could be. And he kept on, he was never satisfied. If he got out, he would think, even in a weekend game, if he got out, he would think as to why he got out and how he could correct it and so on. He was, as I said, a great human being as well. He was one of my many gurus that I had. I played for Fort Vijay. In fact, I joined Fort Vijay to be able to play with him and learn something. And I think somebody referred to it. He told me in Pune in 1950 that retire when people ask you why rather than why not. And I enjoyed a great relationship. I succeeded him as the president of the CCI. But there again, before that, or rather, before that, 74, when Wankhede was, the game went from here to Wankhede Stadium, I used to be associated with the executive committee and we had differences. And in spite of my closeness with him and indebtedness, if you like, at the AGM of the club, I criticized him very strongly for his decision, not as a human being. And yet, the man was so great, he never held that against me. In fact, our relationship continued to be as cordial, and he was always a great well-wisher, which was the man. I think Amar referred to his humanity, his qualities of heart, and they were tremendous. You will find many great cricketers that have adorned and will continue to adorn, but I would like to believe that Vijay Merchant will be Vijay Merchant, and we will never have another Vijay Merchant on the field of cricket as well as in society. Thank you for asking me to speak.
Thank you, Madhav, for your wonderful memories. And now we'll give you Ajit Wadekar. All of us have known Ajit very closely, each and everybody. Apart from playing his cricket, he had a way with his cricketers. He had a way with his team. And Ajit was our captain for Bombay, where we won 6 years in a row, completely unchallenged. While Ajit sat in a selection committee with the likes of Vijay Merchant, Madhura Mantri and Khandu Rangnekar, I sometimes wonder how he got his final 11. Ajit, tell us how you managed that show.
Thanks, Milind, giving me an opportunity to say a few words about Vijay Kaka. Mine is, as you know, I think I'm not in this list of speakers. It's a last minute choice, as it always happens when that's exactly I'm coming to. But I thought I must say something about Vijay Kaka in the sense that I owe my cricketing career to Vijay Kaka. There is no true opinion for that. Rather, my cricketing career indebted to him, and it will always remain indebted to him. Had it not been his that casting vote, which was famous, I think maybe that's the first time I think any chairman of the selection committee had voted his casting vote, and I got elected as captain. In fact, I had absolutely no idea that I was in the running. And those friends down here from the press, I think, they also didn't have any idea then that I was one of the horses for the captaincy. I thought the fight was between Tiger and Chandu. But it was more in favor of Tiger. If I could know him so well, having played under his captaincy. In fact, I had or arrangement. I mean, now this is between you and me. For the first time, I'm letting you out. Either arrangement made with Tiger. That, please see that, because that particular year when I got elected as the captain, I wasn't doing well in Ranji Trophy. I had about hardly 2 or 3 centuries, though we won the Ranji Trophy championship. And to me, I think it wasn't good enough to get into the Indian team or something. And as I knew Tiger very well, I talked to Tiger and I told him, we used to call him Ty, please see that I'm in the team when it comes to selection. I think you are going to be captain. And he just turned around and he said, Ajit, for you there's no problem, but also ensure that I'm in the team when you become a captain. And instantly I agreed to that because I knew I was not going to be captain. So I said, okay, that's the contract between you and me. So when I got elected on the casting vote from the Vijay Kaka, I rang up Tiger and said, Tiger, I stand by our contract. I'm not going to withdraw my signature. And then Tiger said, yeah, no problem. And then next day he said he would get into the politics or something. He would not be available. But that's another story, of course. But this is Vijay Kaka. If I wouldn't have been made captain, perhaps I would have been out of the team. Perhaps then I would have been out of the Bombay team and I would have been out of cricket. So this is the chain of reaction always happens in Indian cricket. So I continued till I retired from Indian cricket, thanks to Vijay Kaka. Like Milind said, and both the Madhavs, this is, of course, this Legion Club is being monopolized by Madhavs, like Raj Singh said. But, I mean, they are worthy of being the president of this Legion Club. But I started playing for Elphiston by accident. Arvind was my captain. And my coach was Nana Mama, Amogh Mathure. I used to do practicals, go late to the ground, and Nana Mama would look at his watch and said, take few rounds. I said, it's good for my stamina. I mean, every day then, whenever I used to go to the ground, I just had to look at Nana Mama and start running. And it went on, till the intercollegiate matches got over. But during those days, intercollegiate matches had some prominence. It has some popularity. We used to play a lot of friendly matches. And as all of you know very well, that I never played in school as such. And so I wasn't keen on playing cricket. I just wanted to be in the team just to see great players and all, and try to get the engineering degree later on. I wasn't so serious at all. And because we had almost 7 or 8 Ranji Trophy players like Arvind, and then we have got Lambu, we've got Tatnis, and we have got Rede, right? Yatin Rede and whatnot, Doshi and Bharat Dalal, the Bharat Dalal from Sydney, but there were 7 or 8 players, and they used to quite busy playing for the state and all. So I used to get chance to play in the friendly matches, and it so happened that we were told that one friendly match we will be playing. We're having all the players, but also Vijay Kaka also will play against us. And like all of you, everybody knew exactly who Vijay Kaka was, Vijay Merchant. And I made it a point to be there on the ground. That was at the Elphiston ground at Oval. He played as usual, new ball. against bowlers of caliber of Vaidya and Joshi and others. And then there's no problem. And then Balu Gupta came on to bowl. And the first ball he bowled, it was a googly. And he was bowled. We were really shocked. I was shocked and all that. But he came to the tent and then he said, I might have got a lot of runs, but I have not been able to pick googly so far. And that's how Balu deceived me. I mean, he was frank enough to admit his weakness, and that's exactly the greatness of the greatest cricketer. When you admit your weakness. And then, when he elected me as a captain, he called me to his office. You know, his office was almost next door. Mine was State Bank. The main local head office at Horniman Circle. His was Thakursi office, just opposite that. If I had to whistle, I could whistle to the chairman of the selection committee from my window to that. But just rode inside, but you couldn't whistle to Vijay Kaka. That was sure. But he called me after that, and he said, look, Ajit, I have appointed you, I give my casting vote to you. It's not because I like you. It's because I've made a lot of inquiries. My coach was Joe Kamath. He talked to Joe Kamath, talked to Nana Mama. He talked to so many players from Bombay, talked to Kadru Rangnekar and all. And then he came to the conclusion, perhaps I think I have good enough experience to captain the Indian side. And good enough experience maybe to replace a guy like Tiger, who has been there captaining the Indian side for nearly 10 or 11 years. And it's because I took the opinion from all of them, I thought I would have a replacement for Tiger, because he wasn't getting the desired result. I'm a businessman, and what I need is the result. I don't want to look into the rate. Just want to see always, profit. I want the results. And I think you can get it. I said, then if that was the case, because we always were from Bombay, those days Bombay, of course, we always try for a result. But then I would like to have a little bit of my say in the team. And this is exactly what millions of Red do. Unless I used to talk to them, I used to talk to the selectors first and tell them this is what my team. Because it's a bit difficult for these great guys, no doubt they're really good selector, tremendously knowledgeable, but it's a bit difficult to go and watch each and every match. There were 70 and odds tournaments. It's just not possible. Not only the great cricketers, tremendously knowledgeable with all that experience, but then they had their own business and all. So it's always better to go and talk to them early. And this is how I got Millie always playing for me. But later on, when we came back in '73, it just happened that we played, I think that was my last match against NCC, rather England, at CCA. And then there was too much of grass. I think looked like that wicket looked quite grassy. And I was in two minds, because we were not supposed to be playing that well against the seam and the swing or the speed on a grassy wicket. And England had the good fast bowlers in their team. So I was in two minds. And then, the CCI dressing room, by the way, you have got really well wishers. They come and try to tell you, do this and do that and all. And so there were a lot of people who came to me and told me that you'll be stupid if you choose to feel bad when you, if at all, or when you win the toss. And that's the time Vijay Kaka came to the dressing room. He was also a commentator. Came to the dressing room and he asked me, Ajit, what have you decided? I said, I would have a last look at the wicket and then I'll decide. But in all probability, I feel that we got upper hand and we should always bat. And he said, Ajit, you go by what you feel. Don't go by what others say, because they are watching the match from 75 yards away. So they don't know what's there in the center. So you go and have a look and decide. And then you decide on your own. And that's exactly what we did. We batted and we were 343 for 3 wickets down on that day. So this is how he always cared for the welfare of the team, for the success of the team. And he made me, more than that, get interested in really social cause. He was the chairman of the 3R Society, like Amar said, and he made me attend a lot of those functions of 3R Society, and that gave me an inspiration to start this All India Cricket Association for the disabled. I think Vijay Kaka was, as I said earlier, and I will continue to say that it's Vijay Kaka to whom I owe my cricketing career. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ajit. We have with us a journalist, Pradeep Vijayakar of the Times of India. Let's have a view from him from the journalistic point. Paddy, it's getting late, throats are dry, people are hungry, so let's have a T20.
Good evening. When Marcus Couture and I we were discussing about what should we talk, what new angle could we talk about Mr. Merchant, I said let us just imagine what if Mr. Merchant was alive today, in what way he would have looked at T20. So I just jotted down a few points and I will talk. Well, Amar told me that he didn't like cricketers going on the field with dark glasses. And so does that mean Mr. Merchant was a traditionalist against any new ideas? But tell you, when there was a time when he wanted to have greyhound racing at the Brabourne Stadium, so that is a giveaway of Mr. Merchant's thinking that I think he would have accepted this new format. Of course, things then come to the pass that it happened. But there was a time when he was a selector, he was a traditionalist. One of my colleagues, Milind Rege and I, we were in Xavier's College. Ramesh Nagdev was a big stroke player. And there was a touch and go situation between Ramesh Nagdev and Sunil Gavaskar. I remember a cricket match when Nagdev got 349, Gavaskar 209 before tea time. And when it came to selection for India in against season of 69, it was Gavaskar was nowhere on the scene. Nagdev could have opened with Chetan Chauhan. Ashok Mankad was converted into the opener, but not Ramesh Nagdev, because Merchant did not like people flashing at a new ball. He wanted batsmen to wear the shine on the ball. That's the prime job. But I think today, if he was alive, I think he would have adapted to the demands of situation. What he would have appreciated in this T20 would have been the innovations that the cricketers are doing. I remember reading in LP Jai, forward by Vijay Merchant to Mr. Raji's book on LP Jai, where Merchant talked about how he was fascinated by the way Mr. Jai's hands would bob up and down on the bat handle, the adjustments he made. And that was the innovation, and how Jai can adapt it to whatever ball was bowled at him, which shows that had he played T20, he would have been very good at innovation. Of course, everybody talks about his late cut. My grandfather, Suman Desai, who was a secretary of Hindu Gymkhana, told me what Mr. Mantri told us, that when he square cut, the wicketkeeper's fingertips would be, they would be wringing the hands in pain because he cut it very late. And most importantly, that right leg would go way outside the off-stump, almost in line with the first slip. That was the thing Mr. Mantri did not tell us, that today's players, when they try to steer the ball, when they try to cut the ball, they just cut from their standing position, don't really move that right leg across and play that shot. That's why you see people missing that. Then what made Merchant, people would want to know, because such a perfectionist, and he openly told us that he developed his game not from any coaching, but from watching other players, 6 or 7 players of his time. He thought the quicksilver footwork of Mushtaq Ali had an effect on his game. The full-blooded hook of LP Jai also had an effect on him. The ability to go out of the crease and meet the slow ball at full pitch or on the half volley, like Lala Amarnath used to do, that also impressed him, had an effect on his game. And finally, the extreme concentration of Duleep Singh Ji and the sound defense of Wazir Ali. That's I've taken these points from a book Mr. Merchant wrote. National Book Trust brought out a book on, it's like almost like a textbook on cricket by Mr. Vijay Merchant, from which I've gained these points. Merchant would not have fallen in the trap of deciding which ball to hit or where to hit it before the ball is bowled, which today's players are trying more often than not. He would have adhered to the principle that the ball is to be played on its merits and the consequent stroke to decide. He would have advocated calmness and nerves of steel under pressure, and of course technique. He believed that once batting was built on sound lines and good strokes all around the wicket would automatically follow. I think the way Rohit Sharma batted in the T20, I think you might get some idea of what Merchant wrote about these things. Merchant would have had net sessions have the impact even on T20 with simulating conditions. It was sad that too many batsmen did not take practice sessions seriously. And even under pressure of a run chase, Merchant would never have forgotten the basics he knew. He never late cut. He told us, never late cut until you have 30 runs on the board. Never square cut a ball moving into you. Rege told you about how Gatani bowled an in-swinger, and he did not square cut only just because the camera was filming and they wanted a late cut. And you saw the clear example of Andy Simons cutting an incoming ball from Pathan and getting bowled from R.P. Singh. Merchant was not a bowler, but he knew the bowlers' minds. He said good bowlers know that a batsman's strong point can also result in his dismissal. How often we see today is that the best shot also can be your worst. And finally, in captaincy, Merchant believed a captain should never ask a player to do anything which he himself would not be prepared to do. A captain is judged how he keeps calm when things go wrong, and he's judged not by his victories, but by the way in which he gets the best out of his men. So these are the thoughts of Merchant I have put to this today's crowd. Most of the players played with him and seen him and watched him. I didn't really watch him in flesh and blood playing cricket, but learned a lot from his cricket commentaries and his programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pradeep. Let me introduce to you two of our dear friends of the CCI, Mr. John Everett and Hartley Anderson, both from Sydney. They've known to the club for over 40 years. They've been very close friends of the club. When the Cricket Club of India team goes to Australia, they've been great hosts. They've had lots and lots of us staying in their houses and given us the kind of hospitality where we've been pampered, we've been spoiled. They've accepted all kinds of rubbish from us in their houses, and we are delighted to have you two here. I'm going to invite John Everett to talk to you about a bit of the way the Australians play their game. We all know that they are the best in the world.
we have picked up a few things from them. Now, John, we've picked up from you Australians the way to sledge, the way to fight fire with fire, as one of the cricketers said, without there being any ash. John, I'd like to talk to the crowd about Australian cricket. John has played Sydney grade cricket, which is a very high standard.
Thank you, Milan and gentlemen, Mr. President, honourable patrons and members of the Legends Club. Arjit Vadigo, you expressed that you're a late inclusion to the speaking here tonight. I can tell you I'm a late inclusion to the speaking, but it's a pleasure to be here and I deem it a great honour. Coincidentally, last week I was in Colombo in Sri Lanka and they had their Legends Club dinner, which was a wonderful evening, and I was the guest of Mr. Siddharth Wedamuni, who you may all recall played for Sri Lanka from 1977 to 1987. And during that evening they reflected on the cricketers of Sri Lanka from 1940 in each decade until the current cricketers, and it was a most interesting and delightful evening to hear a lot of the old cricketers speak, and there were some in the 1940s who did get up to speak. Tonight we're reflecting on the 96th birthday of Mr. V.J. Merchant, and I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Merchant back in 1964 when I came over here to play cricket, and I had the pleasure of meeting Madhav Apte, Arvind Apte, Raj Singh, Dungapur, Anit Settlevet and many others whose friendship I've continued to have over the years. In recent times, Milan Reddy has come out to Australia and we've had a close association in that period. I also can relate to Mr. Amogh Merchant. Amogh's father, Mr. V.J. Merchant, obviously was a wonderful cricketer, and I had the great honour to being the son of Sam Everett, my father, who played cricket for Australia in the 1920s. He actually toured England with the 26 Australian team. He played for New South Wales from 21 to 33. During that period, he played with many well-known cricketers, and coincidentally was on the team when Don Bradman made his debut for New South Wales. So in the ensuing years, I've had the pleasure of being involved and associated with cricketers over a long period of time, and the name V.J. Merchant obviously came up in conversation at home. If my father was alive today, he'd be 106, so in seniority, Amogh, we are 10 years ahead of the Merchant family, but it's been a great honour to be here. So I haven't got much to say about Mr. Merchant, because I briefly met him in those years 1964 and a few years after that. I have been coming back to India consistently over the period, and it's been a great joy to be here. But I would like to reflect on just one matter about cricket, and having been associated with a family of cricketers, and an uncle of mine also played for Australia, Hammy Love, you may be aware, was a wicketkeeper in the Bodyline series and took over when Bert Oldfield was hit on the head by Larwood, I think, in the 30s. So in that environment, I've got to know and understand cricket fairly well. And I think the important factor of being involved in cricket is the association one gets from being meeting other people, whether it's Mr. Merchant or Raj Singh or Madhav or Milland or whoever. That association continues, and I think cricket enables one to have the opportunity to continue that relationship. And in the 44 years I've been coming back to India, and the association continues. And I've had the pleasure of playing around in various countries around the world, and that association does continue and the relationship is maintained. There is also a sad side to that, and particularly in the last few years coming back to India, and we've had the misfortune of the passing of cricketers I've had the opportunity of playing against, which include Polly Umragaya, Hannamant, and more recently Lala, and today I only arrived at 5 o'clock this afternoon. I heard that. Sorry? No. No. Geez, I'm having a mental block. Hakim Abraham. And I heard that this afternoon that Hakim had died. And that's very sad, but I guess it's a fact of life that this continues and will be so. But whilst they may have passed on, one can reflect on what happened. And I do recall an incident, and whilst I was sad to hear that Hakim had died, I remember an incident some years ago when I was in Hong Kong, and I got in touch with Hakim, and we met at a bar on Hong Kong Island for a drink. And at this bar there was a cockatoo, and I had arranged to meet my wife for dinner, but I said, look, I'm only going to have a drink with Hakim for about an hour, and I'll come back and take you out for dinner. That hour went on for some time, and eventually I got home at about 12:30 and asked my wife out for dinner, and she declined the invitation. But what made it a little worse was that at this bar there was a cockatoo in a cage, and the cage door was open. It was meant to be open, and it was part of the format for the club, and that cockatoo would get on patrons' shoulders. And it was a bit difficult to explain when I got home whilst I had scratches on the back of my neck there. So whilst we lose a lot of cricketers over a period of time,
in Australia, in Sydney, and let me tell you that Hartley even today swims 10 miles every day with Ian Chappell in the Sydney harbour. Hartley?
Thanks, Dylan, and gentlemen, good evening. I'm fairly accustomed to being a number 11, but tonight I'll play a rather longer innings than normal, even if it means that you and particularly Mr. Raj Singh have a later dinner than you might have thought. I trust that you can understand me. Being an Australian, we have a reputation for not opening our lips much when we speak, and it's to make sure that the flies don't get in our mouth. Vijay Merchant was not particularly well known in Australia. He didn't come with the 46 team, and in fact he didn't come at all as a player, and I think he played only against Lindsay Hassett's team when they toured on the way to England on a subsequent occasion, 53 probably. So there wouldn't be many, his name is not very well known in our country, and there aren't many people in Australia, certainly not many still alive, who would know much about him. I'm not a statistician, and I'm not I'm not a former Test captain or first-class player, so I won't be a Daniel going into the lion's den to talk much about my knowledge of his performances, although I've been enlightened here tonight. I had the opportunity to meet him on one occasion when I toured with the 74 Old Collegians, and he hosted a dinner for us. I think it was at this club. He also proposed my sister-in-law, Dolly Tucker, who's a member of the club, and she was most grateful for that. Though I do remember her comment, Raj Singh mentioned when her nomination came to the committee, is that I could have had you blackballed. Rather unusual for women nominees. What I would like to talk about is the relationship that I feel qualified to do so relating to the Australian Old Collegians, who have been coming here since 1959. 50 years ago, an Australian farmer named Graham Wallace-Smith from Wagga Wagga decided that it was time to take a team overseas. At that time, there were no overseas cricket tours by anybody other than Test playing countries to each other's soil, and even then it was fairly rare. Graham Wallace-Smith wrote something like 2,500 letters around the world, assembled quite a strong team from Australia, mostly former university players, some rich farmers and ex-college players under the name of the Australian Collegians, and they set out in 1959 for England via Colombo and then came to the CCI where they played a match at the Brabourne Stadium hosted by the Cricket Club of India. And I think probably Mathure played in that match, maybe Harvard. I did. And I'm not sure who else did. But Polly, a fellow in the Australian Collegians team was so impressed by the hospitality that they subsequently issued an invitation to the club to tour Australia. There were no tours. I doubt that the club had toured before that time, but in 1962 a team from the CCI came to Australia. At that time, you will remember that Indians weren't allowed to take any money out of the country, so that the tour by the CCI had to be entirely supported by Australian cricketers, and the people who hosted them picked them up from the airport, they billeted them, they did their washing, fed them, took them to matches, put on parties. Whether or not they arranged lady accompaniment after the matches, I can't comment. But on subsequent tours that did happen, and I can see one gentleman in our midst who would probably confirm this. But the tour was a resounding success from all accounts. I was a 20-year-old student at Sydney University and attended a formal dinner at the Sydney University Union, at which the High Commissioner came from Canberra, and all the team was there. In 1962, I'd never met an Indian, and I had great difficulty in understanding the speech because I'd never heard the accent before. But the dinner was memorable, and I met people like Chhatrapal Singh. I think Sat was there. Certainly Polly was there. Was Polly there? Sorry. I think Mathure was there, and the tour was a great success. And there followed an invitation for the old collegians to come, and John Everett came in 1965. And there's been a two-way visit by teams from India and Australia ever since. I wrote down some notes today. I think that we've visited 9 times, and the team that's due to come either in December or February of this season will be about the 12th to come from India. And John referred to the relationships, and Millens also referred to the relationships that have developed. And the Old Collegians isn't a club in the sense of this great institution. It's a loose-knit collection of Australians who love the game, who've toured, and we continue to communicate via a newsletter. And when teams come, we entertain them, host them, and we arrange our own world tour. And the world tour that Graham Wallace-Smith arranged in 1959 has occurred again in 61 because it was so popular. I went with one in 64, an 8.5-month world tour which touched every continent on the globe. I went for 4.5 months because I couldn't afford any more than that. But that was an extravaganza, and the world tours have continued in shorter form ever since. Every 4 years, every Olympic year, and we've got another one going next year. So the Old Collegians is certainly alive and well, and we look forward when your team comes to Australia in whether it's December or February to again playing them on the field, to beating you, and to looking after you, whether it's billeting, hosting, in whatever form. Life's changed a lot, but the relationship goes on. And I think that's probably where we should finish it up. I'll look forward to seeing you over dinner. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Before we have dinner and a few drinks, I'd like to place on record the tremendous contribution of Mr. Amogh Mathure towards the Legends Club.
we need to give him an ovation. Thank you, sir, for all your guidance. And we'd like to welcome Mr. Amogh Mathure as his new president. Right. Madhava Mantri says that it's a birthday present for Amogh Mathure. He's turned 75 young. He's still playing Kangali, incidentally.
Appointed him captain. Also, another decision that whenever in the selection committee there's a problem about the player, the captain will have the cast. That resolution is standing still.